Welcome to Buses, Benches, and Baseball, presented by DimTroduction.
Who? Never heard of him.
Who's this guy? Who's this guy?
It's not real!
Now here is your host, Tim Dillard.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the world's #1 most unneeded minor league baseball podcast in the world. It's Buses, Benches, and Baseball. And I am your host, Tim Dillard. I appreciate you finding yourself here, tuning into this show, whether it's on purpose or by accident. Glad you're here. And why not click, like, follow, subscribe, whatever word fits into how you're absorbing this podcast. That'll really help and go a long way. Important reminder that you can watch this show on YouTube and that this particular episode may be more enjoyable in that format because in this week's edition, I include some fun Clubhouse videos I made back in 2016 with my former teammate and my guest on this episode, relief pitcher Jim Miller. So that could be fun to check out. I'll be sprinkling those fun videos throughout our conversation. But before we get started, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Just kidding. Still sponsorless. Could all change, though, with only one bad decision from you and your business. To be concluded.
Now it's time for Obscure Clubhouse Videos.
Medium turkey chili. I think you forgot my bread.
You want bread?
Yes, please.
$3. Nothing for you.
All right, I'll give it a try.
No. Why not? Do. Or do not. There is no try.
There you are, Zach. I've been looking all over for you. Time out! Man, this is horrible. I just meant to get a car.
We should buy a bar. Of course! We should buy a bar! We should totally buy a bar.
Totally buy a bar.
Our bar would be awesome.
Joey's Taylor ran his hand up my leg, and then there was cupping. Ross, will you tell him? Isn't that how Taylor measures pants?
Yes, it is. In prison?
When does this happen in the movie?
Now. You're looking at now, sir. Everything that happens now is happening now.
What happened then?
We passed that.
When?
Just now.
Check this out, bro. What's that, Brohim? I switched to Geico. More savings? Yeah, Professor. Nice, bro, Teddy Chip. I'm all about more Teddy Roosevelt.
And seas boiling. 40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes, the dead rising from the grave. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Did you just double dip that chip?
Double dipped? What are you talking about?
You dipped the chip, you took a bite, and you dipped again.
Look at this photograph. Every time I do, it makes me laugh. How did our eyes get so red?
Come on, stop trying to hit me and hit me.
I can't feel my fingers.
Maybe you should wear these extra gloves. My hands are starting to get sweaty.
Extra gloves?
Yeah, we're in the Rockies.
Your hands are freezing.
Just let it happen. Be the ball. Be the ball, Danny. You're not being the ball, Danny.
Well, it's kind of difficult with you talking like that.
Okay, I'm not talking. Stop talking. Not talking now.
I don't want you to get too excited. It's only on loan.
The speeder's ready.
Not yet. We're having some trouble adapting them to the code.
You have to go out on Tauntaun.
Your tauntaun will freeze before you reach the first marker.
Then I'll see you in hell.
Now it's time for a Mound visit.
Hey, I'm here with Jim Miller, former teammate. Now you're a scout with the Angels, right?
Correct.
Thanks for being on my show, man.
Dude, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure when I get to sit and rap with you for however much time we get.
Yeah, right. How about we were teammates 2016 and then didn't see each other again until 2024.
Right.
But in between that time, we probably had thousands of text messages, phone calls, teammates for a short while, but friends for life, man.
Without questions. You think about it, like I want to say that year I got out to spring training somewhere around like mid-February. It was like right after the big leaguers reported, and then they opened up where minor league camp. And then I was released mid-May. So literally you're talking 3 months of being teammates, locker mates, you know? And then then we go 8 years without physically being in the same place. And it was like nothing changed.
I know. I love that about this game. You run into somebody, you just pick up right where you left off.
Yeah, it's great. I still remember one of our teammates, Jay Chapman. I'll tell this story real quick. You came to me like day 2 of me being, you're at the end, buffer locker, me next to you. And you came to me. I had met you like, hey, man, I'm Tim. I'm Jim. Nice to meet you. And you're like, hey, man, you want to do a dub smash? And I'm just like, no, like, I'm good. And then Jay, later on that day, because Jay and I had the same agent at the time. And Jay, I go up to him. I'm like, hey, man, what's this with this guy in his dub smash? Like, what is that about? And he goes, dude, have you not seen his work? And I'm like, no. He's like, go home tonight. It's like, go to YouTube and just type in Dim Tillard and just watch all of his dub smashes. Dude, I was hooked. I'm talking, I can't remember exactly like how much content was on there. It was probably, it had to be at least like 2 hours worth of dub smashes. And I'm just sitting there rolling on the ground, laughing at my host family's house in Chandler, Arizona. And next day come in and I'm like, I'm in, let's do this. And I'm pretty sure the first one we did was the soup episode from Seinfeld.
Yeah.
They're in the kitchen in the minor league side of the Brewers spring training.
You want bread? $3. Yeah. I love that one, dude. We did. I went
like the snatch of the bag, everything was great.
We shot it. It took like 10 or 15 takes.
Nothing for you.
Lamson was in that one too.
Yes. Mitch Lamson was in that with us. Yes.
Well, I mean, I went through and looked up all these old videos with you in it. So when this episode's being released, I'm going to throw all these sequences in there because we had some good times. You're in the minor leagues, especially in spring training. You get there at like 6:30 or 6 a.m. and then you practice. You're on the field at like 8, and then you're off the field, and then you're just hanging around for hours before a game. So there's a lot of downtime really during the season, but spring training for sure. So that's how we spent our days.
Dude, I remember that was my second to last spring training. And I remember like you and I joked about it one time about like how they didn't do like the rotation of the fields for PFP anymore. And I think we did that like one time, and you and I are so pumped. A bunch of the younger kids are sucking wind because they're having to run from field to field. And we're like, dude, this is a normal day 15 years ago.
Yeah, right.
And I remember one time we hadn't started games yet. I got there at 6 o'clock, did the cold tub, hot tub stuff, stretch, got all that. We were out on the field stretching by 9. By 10 o'clock, I was walking back in, done for the day. And I'm like, this is not normal. Like I have to work out or something because there's no reason I should be leaving at 10 a.m. from a spring training.
Yeah. One of my last spring trainings, 2020. So we'll try to forget that. But I remember early on that spring, I was at the team hotel within walking distance in Surprise. And I walk over there. And like you said, you get there early, you get ready, you get pumped up, went on the field very long. And then it's like, okay, you can go back to your hotel. I'm like, I feel like I shouldn't, because we grew up in an era where spring training was a grind and it was an absolute reward. Like you felt you'd won the lottery when you made a team. That's what spring training was. That's where you and I came through. And you did this for what, 14 seasons? Is that how long you played?
2000. I signed in 14 or in 04, sorry. And my last spring was 2017 with Minnesota.
Yeah. Long time, man. You saw it and how it progressed.
Yes. I remember the following year in 2018, it was my first spring training where I was a scout. And I had a night game in Fort Myers between the Twins and the Pirates. And I thought, you know what? I'll get down there a little early. I'll go to the backfield and see some of the coaches that I met prior to going into the stadium for BP. And I remember running into a bunch of coaches. They were playing. They had a minor league game that day against Baltimore. And you remember, like, if you either had a chart, the radar gun, or a foul ball bat boy, and if you didn't have any of those duties, like you were sitting around like watching the game in your workout gear. Like you had to stay and at least watch. If you had so much minor league time, you had to stay for 5 innings. If you touched the big leagues, you might have to stay for 4. If it was your first spring training, you had to stay for 7. Well, I look around and there's ghost town.
Yeah.
And I look at the one coach that I was friends with. I'm like, hey man, where are the kids at? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, the minor leaguers. Like, why are they not out here watching? He goes, oh man, it's a new thing now. We send them home. We send them out after they're done so they can get their rest. And I was just like, yeah, I'm sure they're resting on Fort Myers Beach right now. I'm sure they're not at all. I'm sure they're all up there sleeping, not at all on Fort Myers Beach. Like, yeah.
Well, I remember one of my first or second spring training. This was probably 04, 05 era. And if you're in the, the A ball groups, then, those teams will go on the road, and that means AA and AAA played at your spring training complex. Mm-hmm. And so I you had to stick around for however many innings just to watch. Even if you didn't have a duty, if that wasn't even your team, you still had to sit around and watch. And I remember one game, coincidentally enough, playing the Angels.
Yep.
I remember Tim Salmon. Remember Tim Salmon? What a beast.
Oh, yeah.
This guy, I think, got out of his car or the bus. Yep. I can't remember. Pretty sure he already had his spikes on.
Yeah.
And was wearing full uniform, big league uniform, and had a bat and a helmet. And that was it. He walked off like no bag, nothing, just walked. The game starts. He starts on the AAA side and bats second. And then when he gets done with his at bat, he got a hit, gets a runner, walks across to the other field and gets on deck in that game. And I think I stayed for 5 or 6 innings, even though I could have left, and just watched him get like 18 at bats and got like 12 hits. And I'm going, this is what spring training is for the big leaguers, just reps galore. So he went on a road trip, which big leaguers, they barely do that nowadays. Yeah. And I just remember thinking that's super pro. And I wouldn't have seen it like that. You're missing stuff like that of experience when they send those guys home early. But it's a different time now.
Yeah. So in 2011, I was a minor league free agent. In 2010, I had an okay year in AAA with Baltimore. Didn't have a great year. And you know this feeling because you and I have talked about it before, but come January, you're like, it's crickets. I don't have a job.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh God, what do I do? What do I do?
I feel like that now, man. You kidding me?
So I called the Rockies, knew a lot of people in the front office because they were the team that drafted me. And I was like, hey, do you just have a minor league job? And we got it worked out. And I came to Salt River. Well, that was the first year Salt River opened. And it was like, they ruined it for everybody, spring training complex wise. Like it's so over the top ridiculous. I mean, it's awesome. And I remember their weight room, when you walk into the weight room, it's this giant warehouse looking thing, but all the way through downstairs. And then they have a second level where that's where the cardio is, and I was doing a little show me bike early one morning, get loose. And here comes this comp pick. I mean, we're stretching at 9 a.m. It's 8:15 and I'm on the bike getting loose and he's walking in his street clothes. And I remember, and he and I, we became friends, as you do in spring training. And I remember walking up to him during pitcher stretch or during stretch right before, field coordinator is going to come out and run through the day. I walked up to him and said, hey man, what are you doing showing up at 8:15? And he's like, well, stretch is at 9. I have 45 minutes. I said, bro, they just gave you $795,000. I said, you're showing up 45 minutes before stretch and your street clothes. All of these coaches and coordinators, because like when you walk through the double doors to get to the locker room, cafeteria is right there.
Yeah.
So coaches, coordinators, all these people coming out of there, front office staff, all of this. And it's like, I'm not saying you had to get there at 6, right? That was, it was whatever, but 7:30. Like at least be there in your uniform, ready to go. If somebody, even if you're doing, it's just. Yeah,
it's the old adage: if you're 5 minutes early, you're 10 minutes late. Yeah,
exactly.
And that's kind of what spring training is. One of my first couple of spring training. I don't know why we're talking about spring training so much, but I think you started it.
Probably.
But like I remember a guy got released because he was late, and I think they were. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe they were planning on. He didn't have a spot for him anyway, and they might have released him anyway.
But they
made an example really early in spring, and that resonated. It sent waves because it was like, we don't care who you are. We will release you if you're not ready and taking this serious. And showing up 30 minutes before stretch and street clothes is not how you want to roll, because this life, I mean, you either to play as long as we did, you have to learn how the ropes work and you have to be prepared and you got to be on time, which you weren't, by the way, for this podcast.
No, I was 5 minutes late. I got into doing some stuff in the guest room.
All right.
And you sent me the first link, and I didn't want to sit in the office. So then I had to get an extension cord so I could plug the computer. First world problems.
Yeah.
First world.
Well, at least you figured it out.
But real quick, I love the fact that you have your Sky Sox locker seat in the background.
Yeah. Yeah. For everybody listening, you can go on YouTube and watch this thing. And my office is decorated with all sorts of garbage. But this right here, I sat on this chair and they were getting rid of Colorado Springs Sky Sox as the entity, as the team. It was the last season. It was 2018. And they're changing it over to the Vibes. I actually wore that shirt too.
Nice. Oh, that's right. Because they're an indie ball team now, right?
Yeah, but they did rookie ball, I think, for somebody for a year. It might have been the Brewers.
Okay.
Either way, get toasty. It's tough to play in Colorado Springs. Maybe we should talk about that in a minute. But I was walking out, and I think Tyrone Taylor might have been next to me because we were locker mates that year. Mm-hmm. And we were all kind of leaving. Everybody's leaving after the season was over. And I just looked down, and I'm like, I'm taking this chair with me.
Yeah.
And I drug it out like Steve Martin in The Jerk. Like, all I need is this chair. And I took it and threw it in my car, and here it is.
I don't need one other thing. Not one. I need this chair.
I love it. I always felt like Colorado Springs would have made the perfect short season club because you would have sent hitters fresh out of the draft. They would have gotten confidence to hit in pro ball. You would have sent pitchers out of the draft knowing that, hey, it's a tough place to pitch, but we just want you to get innings in, and see what you look like out of the draft. And it would have been no harm, no foul. Whereas like you and I being there, like I remember in 2011, I was fortunate enough that year when I signed the minor league deal with the Rockies. I was fortunate enough. I grinded the entire year. They rewarded me with a call up that September. And my stepfather, God rest him, he was my pitching coach in high school, and he was my confidant throughout my playing career. Like I talked to him every night before I put my cleats on. I would call him, even if I wasn't throwing. Like if I threw 2 days in a row and was like, hey, I'm probably down, but I'll still be checked in come sixth inning just to make sure every night. So one day, my number, the numbers in Colorado Springs, how they can get inflated super, super fast. So he lived in Eastern Tennessee near the Smoky Mountains. And there's a lookout, Klingman's Dome, and it's 6,400 feet up in the air. And he calls me one day and he's just reading me the act. Like he's giving me all of it about my numbers in Colorado Springs, what my ERA is, this, that, and the other thing. And I'm just sitting there like, okay. I'm just wearing it, right? And he gets done. He goes, you have anything to say for yourself? I'm like, yeah, you got a baseball in the house? And he's like, yeah. I said, okay, do me a favor. Grab that baseball, go get in the car, and take the hour-and-a-half drive up to Colorado or up to Klingman's Dome. He's like, okay. And I'm like, and then grip a slider and throw it.
Yeah.
Tell me how much it moves. And he's like, well, what's that got to do with anything? I'm like, because that's the elevation I'm playing in. Only there's no humidity, and it can be 77 and sunny. And then 20 minutes later, there's a snowstorm coming through.
Yeah, right.
To
your point, I get it. Like if rookie ball would have been there, it would have been a good little learning spot. But people shouldn't play in 6,000 plus elevation. It was almost like a make or break you. It's like if you could get through it, the reward could be the big leagues. Because just in my 4 years there, people like Josh Hader, Brandon Woodruff, Corbin Burns, Freddie Peralta, Adrian Hauser, like all these guys got through it and thrived. I think they were better pitchers on the other side because of what they had to go through. Because man, your stuff did not work. And then you go on a road trip, and then suddenly you're in Memphis, and your stuff is amazing. Yes, you had to recalibrate every single time you went out there. Nothing was ever consistent. And that right there was very difficult, and it made you better or it ended your career is what it felt like.
So I had both of those. It got to the big leagues in 11 and it essentially ended my career in 16. So
my bad.
Both sides of the penny there.
Well, you played a long time. I looked at some of your numbers. I thought this was great. Okay. All right. So 2004, 8th round, Rockies at a University of Louisiana Monroe. You threw 860 innings in your career. 860 innings, but you only started one game.
Does that include is that just the minor league numbers?
That's everything. That's
okay. Gotcha.
Fall League, Mexico, Venezuela, Dominican, big leagues. You've been everywhere, man.
Everywhere. Almost as international as you.
Yeah. But what I dug deeper on was you had 38 hit by pitches. You hit 38 dudes, and you had 39 wild pitches. That is minuscule, dude. Your control must have been pretty elite. Because I looked at mine, and I've hit the world and thrown tons of wild pitches. So I want you to kind of go through maybe like your arsenal a little bit and kind of where your pitching philosophy got put together.
Okay. So out of the draft, I was fastball, kind of curve slurvy ball type deal. It wasn't like a true 12-6. It would have some 11-5, maybe even a little 10-4 to it. Tried throwing a changeup, but I don't know, like my slot was like a 3/4 slot. My hand would be on the side of the ball. I could never, I always wanted to try to turn it over, could never throw it. But my stepfather, going back to him, my freshman year in high school, I was a starter way back then. And the first, I think it was 6 or 7 of the maybe 10 starts I got that year, he wouldn't let me throw anything but a fastball. And I remember it was like the 6th start. I'm warming up in the pen. He goes, "Hey, just so you know, this entire season, I've been telling the other team you're throwing nothing but a fastball." And I was like, "Awesome, thanks." I said, why would you do that? Why would you undercut me? And he goes, "Well, if you can learn to get outs with a fastball," he's like, "when we start adding stuff," he's like, "it should be a lot easier for you." And he was right. Like as I progressed through high school became easier to pitch. But because of that rule, because of trying to get outs with nothing but a fastball, I pitched off of my fastball.
Yeah.
I had a decent arm coming out of college. We called it the invisible back then because we didn't have all the data and the metrics to understand that it was ride and extension through the zone that they do now. And so went fastball curveball. Well, in 2008, I was with Baltimore, Dave Schmidt, pitching coordinator. He comes to town in Bowie and he was like, "Hey, I want to teach you a little cutter because the way your fastball is, it's fine." He's like, "But your curveball, it was probably like 77 to 80. He's like, "And it's fine." He's like, "But there's like, they're going to be able to stay back and keep their hands back on it." He's like, "Big league hitters aren't going to be fooled by it." He's like, "You might be able to pop it in for a strike early." He's like, "But for a put away pitch, it's like, they're going to be able to stay back on it." So he taught me this little cutter. It became a little slider. And so, yeah, I was primarily fastball, slider, curve. I was fastball, slider, curveball the rest of my career. And I would use my curveball early in the count, kind of steal the strike. I would try to elevate when I was ahead. And the slider was just something like soft contact off the end, a good go between the two.
Nice. There's always somebody that pops up in the minor league career, a coach. Could be something you learned from a teammate that you're like, "I need that." Yep. And I think the guys that last the longest in the game are the ones that don't just watch the game. They're watching the players. They're watching their teammates on what they do different. Because I look back at, all the stuff that I ended up becoming at the end of my career, and I'm going, there's little pieces of coaches and teammates that I've had that I've stolen something that they've done and applied it to my game. And I think that's what you have to do to stay long in this game.
I agree. I mean, heck, even 2015 when I was with Tampa Bay in AAA, Kyle Schneider was my pitching coach, who he's now their big league pitching coach. I remember coming in to Durham, second, third home game, and I had thrown the night before. And what I came to find out was my TrackMan printout is sitting on my chair. And I walked into Kyle. I'm like, "What is this?" And he goes, "That's your TrackMan." And I had this blank expression on my face. And he goes, "Okay, clearly you have no idea what that is." I said, "Nope, never seen it." And he goes, "It just kind of gives you a plot of how your stuff moves." And I said, "What am I supposed to do with it?" He goes, "Well, you can do one of two things." He's like, "You can take it and throw it in that trash can, and I'll never put it on your chair ever again." He's like, "Or we can sit down and go over it, and I'll make you understand how to best use your stuff." I was like, "Well, I got nothing to lose. Sure, let's dive in." And had arguably one of the best AAA seasons I'd ever had that year. But there was like here, at that point I was 33. And so 33 years old, this is year 12 of being a professional baseball player. You think you kind of have everything figured out. Nope. We're going back to school and still learning at that point.
Yeah. I mean, it is. You play long enough, you're like, you've kind of done everything, you've kind of seen everything. And anything that comes up that's new,
Yeah.
older guys are skeptical, like super skeptical, because there's so many gimmicks out there,
Sure.
bat tools and, hit gurus and, and everything's like, this is the new wave of the future. And then it's gone in a year. So when something like TrackMan, which for our listeners is, a big black square that sits up, you can see this, they're at every big league stadium. They're probably at every minor league stadium now.
Every
And
minor league as well.
and it tracks everything about the spin rate of the ball, where it comes out of your hand,
Move access, velocity, everything.
it gives you everything. And so you apply that. And a lot of times you can't really get that information. Like for me, it was very difficult because I don't really pitch that way. My stuff was just gimmicky because I was sidearm. So I was just like, I'm just going to get you out because of movement. To me, movement was king, and it's going to be movement in on a righty's hands, or it's going to be a curveball moving away from him. And for me, the TrackMan stuff didn't really help, but it was the usage. When you start putting into, okay, well, how many times, do you throw a curveball? Do you get swings and misses? Well, there was times it'd be 50%. So if I throw 2 curveballs, statistically, I'm getting a swing and miss on one. So when you get that information, you're not going to always be able to absorb all of it and apply it to your game. But what they're doing nowadays is pretty special stuff. But yeah, we're kind of in the weeds when it comes to the pitching and the mechanics and how people put their arsenals together.
Well, it's so much different now because, I mean, I think you probably agree with me on this, especially towards the end of our careers when this stuff kind of just started coming into the game. Like if a pitching coach, when you were, in 2017, 2018, hey, Timmy, I think let's try this with your breaking ball.
Yeah.
You might kind of, okay, I'll look at it, but at the same time, it's like, dude, if I change something and I don't put up numbers, like I'm not getting a job next year. Like I'm trying to stay employed.
Yeah.
Whereas now between some of the indoor places that you see online that guys go to in the off season or the mobile track, like, they have the tripods now, the mobile track, man, that gives you it right there. And so you got guys throwing bullpens in spring training that are doing, they've got the slow motion capture, they're doing grip manipulation right there on the spot and seeing results instantly. Whereas when you and I were coming up, it was, hey man, I think you should throw your slider like this, because I'm your pitching coach and I'm telling you to do that. Never mind how maybe like when nowadays they slow it down and see how it comes off your hands. Like, well, actually, no, that doesn't work for him. He needs to do it like this. Or like if a guy doesn't stay behind the ball and he's not efficiently spinning it right, well, maybe he needs to throw a 2-seam breaking ball instead of a 4-seam breaking ball or a no-seam, all of that stuff.
That's the way it was. It was a coach's opinion on what they saw out of you. One of the best things I ever got, Steve Klein, this guy was amazing. Brewers pitching coach, always stayed in Arizona. One of the best things he told me was like, he said, you need to pitch like Derek Lowe. This was early in my career. All I had really was a 2-seamer, but that's enough sometimes if it's good enough. And he would just, if I was throwing a bullpen and I'm trying to, maybe it's not going very well, he'd come up behind me and he'd just whisper, Derek Lowe. And it got me back to who I was as a pitcher. And that's this kind of stuff you relied on, to the point where maybe it wasn't even good at times. I had a pitching coach in AAA years ago, and he one day out of nowhere was like, hey, it's coming from the top. You got to learn to throw a knuckle curve. I was like, I don't even know how to throw a knuckle curve. A whole bullpen wasted, like 50 pitch bullpen. We were in New Orleans, and I'm just snapping off breakers, dude, that I've never done before in my life. And I'm going, I hope my arm works tomorrow. And the whole time he's like, we're trying to manipulate it, get done with the bullpen. And I am frustrated. I'm a little bit angry, and I didn't know what to think. And then never talked about it ever again. The pitching coach never brought it up ever again. What in the world? But you don't have to go through that anymore. That's what if everybody out there is wondering, like all the stuff that's going on, it's eliminating this wasted time and pitches coming out of your arm, basically, and speeding up the process.
Yeah, within 5 to 10 pitches, like they're going to be able to say yes or no whether or not you can do this.
That's crazy.
Can you tell your other fun New Orleans story about when we were down there playing? Day game, second, you're starting that game, first at bat of the game.
What?
UI's on second.
Oh, I didn't start that game. I came in.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay. Tell that story. Tell that whole at bat.
Well, yeah. So I forgot who started, but they were going to start, supposed to throw like 2 or 3 innings. Got knocked around real quick. So we're down by how many runs. It's day game in New Orleans. It's about 99 degrees with 99% humidity. I mean, we're roasting in the bullpen. That no one's at this game, by the way, because apparently if you go to New Orleans, you don't go there to watch minor league baseball. And
imagine that.
So I'm suddenly in the game, and I had to come in runners on base. I don't know if I got out of it or not. And I mean, we're all just dripping sweat. I go sit in the dugout, and Rick Sweet, Rick Sweet comes over, manager, and was like, he's like, Dilly, by the way, you're going to have to hit, right? Because this is back when pitchers hit. I was like, whatever. And I went and grabbed a C271, no batting gloves. I walk up to the plate, and I'm getting in the box, and I go, hold on. And I step out, and I go, how many outs? Because if it was 1 out, I'm bunting. If it's no outs,
EY's on first.
Yeah, no, I'm asking. I'm like, how many outs? Because if it's 1 out, I'm bunting. If it's nobody out, I'm bunting. And the umpire's like smiling because he knows I've known him forever. And he's like, there's 2 outs. I was like, dang it. I have to. And I was over it, man. I'm like, this is. And so they just brought in a pitcher who just got called up from AA. And I go, this dude probably thinks I'm just some Joe Schmo sitting in the bullpen, reliever. But I was drafted twice as a catcher, and I actually, got some hits in pro ball. And so I was like, I may take advantage of this. So I took the first pitch, and it was like, I don't know, fastball away off the plate. And I was like, he's going to throw this next one right down the middle. And he did. And I just crushed it to left field. Yeah, big bomb. Eric Young Jr.'s on second. I was more concerned after I hit it because I knew it was gone, but New Orleans is a dead zone, man. Like, you remember those commercials like T-Mobile? It's like, it's a dead zone, like
ball went nowhere.
Yeah, I was like, if it doesn't go out and it hits off the wall and I end up at first base, because Keon Broxton was on deck, and he's trying to get back to the big leagues. And, if you want to know about being a good teammate, this is what it looks like. I was trying to be a good teammate going, if I'm not on second base and Keon comes up and hits a ball that I should score on, I'm taking an RBI away from him.
Sure.
And I don't want to chalk it up to, well, I'm just a pitcher. I don't want to be that guy. So I was like, I'm at least getting to second base on this ball. But it went over the fence, and, I jog around the bases like I'd done it before for some reason. Yep. And I get home, and Eric Young Jr. is just, dude, he is glowing. He's so happy.
Dude, you guys had just done, it was great. Like 3 days prior or something.
Yeah.
You guys had done the dub smash for Major League 2, Black Hammer and White Lightning.
Yeah. Jesse the Body Ventura. And
yeah, man. Oh God. I remember.
And Willie Mays Hayes. It was so good.
Willie Mays Hayes is Black Hammer. Jesse the Body Ventura is White Lightning, coming to a theater near you.
Dude, you hit it and we went nuts in the bullpen. Because again, it's a 10:30 day game. You're sweating as soon as you get off the bus. And one of our guys, one of our bullpen guys hits a homer. Like, I don't care what else happens the rest of the day. We had a guy in the bullpen hit a homer.
Yeah, it was funny too, because everybody's trying to give me the silent treatment in the dugout when I got back. I just went and sat on the bench because I'm sweating bullets, man. I got to pitch another 3 innings because we're short in the bullpen.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, and then everybody kind of, the joke's over, and everybody's like, yeah. And I'm going, later, guys. I was like, we'll celebrate this later. And we did.
And we did. And we did.
And we did. But that was great. I'm not here to talk about me, man. I'm here to talk about you.
I know, but I just love that story.
It is a good story.
Nice work to try to get back into this ball game. And here's the pitch.
Holy cow.
And a fly ball will hit to left field, and the pitcher, Tim Dillard, has just gone yard. And look at that Sky Sox bullpen. Those guys are going nuts. They are going nuts.
Wow. He's apparently a pretty popular guy, as we mentioned. There wasn't anything funny about this, though. He just tattooed it, man.
There's no doubt about it.
Seriously tagged, and, you had to figure, hey, you got to challenge. You got to challenge this pitcher here with 2 outs and see if he can swing the bat. I think you got an answer that you didn't like.
Yeah, good times. But that's what this podcast is. It's about stories. And so we're going to play a game, one of my favorites, called Hat Game. And it's in a old Sky Sox beanie that they give. I still have the tag on it. But I'm going to pull something out of here that's going to jog your memory or story or something about the minor leagues that maybe you can share with our listeners here.
Okay.
And the first one is city. Do you have a favorite minor league city that you would like to go into?
Yeah, let me think about that.
I'll let it out. You're thinking.
Yeah. I mean, I played there in 15. So I'm a little jaded there, but I always enjoyed going to Durham. Jaded in a good way, right? So or biased, that's probably a better term I should
Yeah.
use. Because there's the history of the organization, obviously from the movie and all that, but then they did such a good job right around the ballpark of revitalizing all the tobacco warehouses and stuff with like cool restaurants and bars and stuff, like a little almost like a city walk type thing.
Nice.
So I always enjoyed going to Durham. You stayed downtown, you could walk to and from the ballpark. That was always a big caveat of mine. If we were going somewhere and I could walk to the ballpark versus waiting on the bus. But yeah, Durham, I would say probably Durham was one of my favorite cities to go to.
Yeah. No, I've never got to play in the IL. I was always in the PCL, Pacific Coast League, but I like the places where you could walk to the field. I'm a big walksman.
100% same.
Not a big jogsman anymore, but I was a walksman.
No, I gave up jogging.
Yeah, I think it's pronounced jogging. What's your favorite Dub Smash video from 2016? I know we talked a little bit about it.
Favorite Dub Smash video from 2016?
Because we made probably 30 together, you and I, at least, yeah.
At least. Man, that's so hard to knock it down to just one. Probably one of the Star Wars ones in the snow in Colorado Springs, just because we had the elements to use. But one that I laugh about a lot is, I was thinking about this when I was talking about spring training, is the one where we used the whistling from Robin Hood, where you and I are just sitting there, the camera's behind us, we're sitting there talking, and everybody's just walking by us, and we're like, ah, and it's just the whistling cartoon sound from Robin Hood.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed the double dip,
about that one.
The double dip chip. The first night we were in Colorado Springs from driving up from spring training, you and I went to a bar to grab a burger and stuff. We're sitting there and you're like, hey man, let's do a Seinfeld dub time. Double dipping the chip and the chips and salsa that we had.
Did you just double dip that chip?
Double dipped? What are you talking about?
You dipped the chip, you took a bite, and you dipped again.
I was like, double dip? What do you mean? You dipped, took a bite, and then you dipped again. Yeah. My favorite one was the How I Met Your Mother. You know,
the bar?
Yeah. And kids, we said the 5 words that every guy eventually says, we should buy a bar.
I got into that one because you were holding something and I completely just smashed whatever you had out of your hands.
I had a paper cup and you kept smashing. We shot 50 of those because we kept busting out.
Yes.
We should buy a bar. Of course, we should buy a bar. We should totally buy a bar. Totally buy a bar. Our bar would be awesome.
Eventually, we played baseball in our careers.
Eventually.
All right, I got another one out of the Sky Sox beanie hat.
All right, what do you got?
Well, it's kind of along those lines. What kind of games did you play in the clubhouse?
Obviously, clubhouse, it was mostly like spades, hearts, just mostly card games. The bigger thing was like, I remember, I laugh about it now, but like in spring training, the downtime at the hotel where you'd have like 3 Xbox hooked up to the Ethernet cords and you'd have them running through the hallways, or like you'd be fishing them out the window to the other one so he could plug them into his. I remember I traveled with an Xbox, but then I had a 100-foot Ethernet cord with a connector that I would travel with just for that reason, because we would come back playing and it was 4-on-4 and just 4-on-4 Halo.
That's exactly what we did. Yeah, the Halo 2005. I was in the Florida State League. We did the same thing. This is back when those big TVs were tethered to the dresser.
Yeah. Yes.
And what we would do, because we didn't have a long enough cord, is we would just drag the whole entertainment system. We'd unplug it from the wall. And we'd drag it into another room. And the reason we did this, we were in Palm Beach.
Oh my goodness.
We were Palm Beach. We'd play the Cardinals. We'd also play the Marlins. So we were there for like a week and a half.
Yep.
And so we put it in our room. And we had 2 Xboxes, 4-on-4, playing Halo against each other. And we couldn't let the maids in our rooms because the TV can't be missing.
Yeah.
You get in trouble for that, apparently. Yeah. So everybody, after every game that entire week, would come to our rooms. We'd have, 15, 20 people in our room.
And you're just rotating guys.
Yes, but it's like, it's pizza boxes. It's, McDonald's was right around the corner. Everybody's, tobacco bottles that they would leave, or spitters lying around everywhere, trash everywhere. So we go to leave, and me and my roommate, Kenny DeRoss, we're like, what do we do with all this trash? So we just like put it in a pile. And we thought maybe we'll just get away with it. We get on the bus. We're about to leave. We're looking at each other like, dude, our room was trash and we're about to get away with this. Sure enough, here comes the manager up on the bus, John Tamargo. He is livid and he is screaming and he is like, who's in room, whatever.
Oh, man.
And we're like, that's us. Yeah, we got in trouble for that one.
Yeah.
All right, let's go another one.
All right, what do you got?
All right, out of the hat. What advice would you give to the next group of players, or advice you would give to maybe parents of ball players? That's a big question. We talk about this stuff sometimes on phone calls.
Yeah, you and I, we had a really good session about this like 4 or 5 days ago, setting all this up. My advice to kids would just be to, like young kids, compete, have fun, learn the game of baseball. My advice to parents would be understand your son's chance of being a big leaguer is extremely slim. Your son's chance of playing college ball is maybe a little bit better, but still slim. Like, this is a big topic of mine because
I'm getting you riled up, man. I'm getting you riled up.
It's not riled up. It's just like you and I have a much different perspective. I absolutely know that I was completely fortunate to get to the level that I got. Right? It came with a lot of hard work, but it was complete. And some of it's luck too. Really, did either one of my parents think when I was 12 years old I was going to play in the big leagues? Oh, my people will ask me about my son, like, oh, Ethan, he's pretty good. I'm like, yeah, I just hope he makes his high school team. Like, just curb your expectations. Like, if they make their high school team, fantastic, go support them. And then if they have a chance to go play college ball somewhere, good, support them in that. But don't get caught up thinking, oh, my son's going to be, like I saw this thing on X. It was after Juan Soto signed for his, illustrious contract. And
$9 trillion.
So much money. It was a gif of Mike Tomlin, the head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, walking down the hallway with a cup of coffee. And it was like me waking my son up at 4 a.m. to take BP after Juan Soto just signed his deal. And it's like, come on, man.
I saw those memes. It's like telling your son that plays tennis, be like, nope, it's baseball. You're playing baseball now.
Yeah. And not only that, like, have your kid play multiple sports.
Sure. Yeah.
This idea that we've got to play for youth baseball, that we have to play nothing but baseball January to December and then run it all the way back again is just absolutely absurd.
There you go. You're warming up now, baby.
You're getting me hot now.
Yeah.
Like, go play soccer, go play football. If you live up north, try hockey. If you live down here, try field hockey. Like, try different things, because if you limit yourself to just baseball, in my opinion, you're going to curb some natural athleticism that can come out.
Absolutely.
You may find something else that you like.
Yeah. Yeah, I played basketball in high school basically just so I could get in shape for baseball season. That was like the only reason. And I'd quit. I'd quit after first baseball practice. I'd quit basketball.
Good.
My coach hated me, but he was also the basketball coach and the baseball coach. So he would get mad at me for quitting basketball. And then 3 hours later, he'd be hugging me like, hey, baseball's right around the corner. Play every sport. I love that. Yeah. All right. Let's do another one out of the hat.
Absolutely, man.
I'm sure there's some good ones in here.
Has to be. You came up with them, so there have to be good ones.
You ever strike out anybody famous?
I brag about it. I brag about it with my colleagues just because of who I work for now. But yes, I have struck out Mike Trout and Albert Pujols.
Really? My bad. Yeah, they're in your book.
Yeah, they're both 0 for 2 off of me.
Oh,
but their bank account's like way better than mine.
Yeah, I'm sure they're.
I'm sure they're not worried about that at all.
That's pretty good, Mike Trout, Pujols.
Yeah.
You played in the minor leagues a long time. You played, all over the place. Talk about one of your favorite teammates of all time, besides me, of course.
Right in.
Go for it. Who you got? Who's someone you still keep in touch with?
Oh man, buddy of mine that I played with in Baltimore for 4 years. We still keep in touch through fantasy football and things of that nature. Andy Mitchell. He was my throwing partner for 4 years. In 2008, when I got my first call up outside of my immediate family, I don't know that there was anybody more excited for me to get called up to the big leagues than Andy was. Just a good man, good husband, good father, lives just outside of Atlanta. Just really good dude. Yeah.
The relationships from the teammates and the stuff that you learn and digging in with some of these relationships. And we joke around about it all the time. Like, we don't know if we align on whatever it is, religion, politics, you can throw out all those big words that nobody really wants to talk about. It doesn't matter. You connect with people. These are the people that understand the life that you've gone through, what it looks like after that minor league baseball life. And then you just respect each other. And that's something that you and I have always agreed on. This is dating back a while now.
When you're with a group of guys, group of teammates from February to September, I don't know, like the stuff that you just brought up for people in regular everyday life and what you see on TV nowadays or on the internet, whatever, like those are bigger issues. You don't have time to worry about that.
Yeah.
In a minor league clubhouse, because you're all trying to get to the same spot and you're trying to do your job on the mound. You're hopeful that the 7 guys behind you are trying to do their job to get outs for you, but put themselves in a position to get to the big leagues. You're hopeful that the guy you're throwing to is doing the exact same stuff. So you're all in this. You all have this constant, consistent goal, and you don't have time to worry about the other stuff because you're all battling for the same thing. But yeah, the relationships that you developed over the years, I always thought I would do a better job of keeping in touch with guys. Because you meet so many guys, but I mean, life happens and things of that nature. But yeah, I mean, you just don't have time for any of that other stuff.
Yeah, I always thought guys are away from their support staff, like families, and whether it's a younger guy, it's parents, or older guys get wives or kids or whatever. So you're basically, this is your new family, and every year it could be different.
Yep.
You go to spring training. That's how I felt in my later years. I go to spring training and I'm like, all right, where's my new family at?
Yeah.
Because I'd been through the ringer. And so that's just kind of how I looked at things. But, and I think kindred spirits in that way. I think when, I'm asking you to do a video in spring training, who knew that fast forward, 8 to 10 years, here we are, we're still doing it.
Yeah. I remember going, talking about those types of subjects. I can remember a conversation you, me, and Brett Suter had in a hotel room in New Orleans. And we talked about different, I don't know how it came up, but we about different complex issues. And I know for certain, like the 3 of us didn't align on all topics, but it didn't matter. Like it didn't change it.
Didn't change how we viewed each other. We all hug each other. We still fight for each other. And
exactly. Yeah.
That's what it's about, man. Hey, thanks for being on my show. This is awesome. That's a perfect way to wrap it up, brother. I know you got some meetings coming up, so I'm going to let you go.
I appreciate it, brother. It's always good catching up with you, man. Anytime you want to do it again, I'm happy to be a part of this because I think it's really, really good what you're doing.
Yeah, I got about 500 more teammates, but then I'll circle back to you. So,
sure. So I'll see you. Let me see. It's 2024, so I'll look at 2026.
Yeah, if the show lasts that long, who knows?
All right, my man. Always a pleasure.
All right, Jim. See you, man.
See you, buddy.
That's all for this week's episode of the world's #1 most unneeded minor league baseball podcast in the world, Buses, Benches, and Baseball. I'd like to thank you for listening, subscribing, reviewing, commenting, and if you haven't done any of those things, well, then
shame.
You can watch the show on YouTube as well as listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music. And of course, be sure to follow on social media at DimTillard Show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for your chance to win an underwhelming prize pack courtesy of whatever random stuff I throw into a box and send you if you win. You can also shop DimTillard merchandise at dimtillard.com under the link Buy My Crap. See you next time on Buses, Benches, and Baseball.
Thank you for tuning in to Buses, Benches, and Baseball, presented by DimTillard.